So today I made my way to Rice/White Willow, Minnesota. This is a town that was founded by Reverend William Rice. White Willow was, I want to say, a couple miles down the road. And William Rice, he's kind of a cool guy. He's a reverend. And I'm not sure if he was born in Rochester or if that's where he came into Minnesota from. But he did go to Hamlin College, Hamlin University in Red Wing. So that's, 1860s. And then after that, he became a pastor. And he was a pastor in Red Wing, he was a pastor in Rochester, he was a pastor in Zumbrota. And that's the key to this. He was a pastor in Zumbrota at the time that the Duluth, Red Wing, and Southern put their railroad through this area. And he's not your average pastor. He's actually on the board. He's a board member of the Duluth, Red Wing, and Southern. So when they platted this railroad through here, he wound up acquiring some land somehow. Now, I don't know if he bought it for the railroad or if he bought it for himself, but when you look back at the history, it says that he had bought some land and decided to have a town here. So I don't know what farmer he bought the land from, but he bought some land, and he must have called the town Rice, or the people decided to call the town Rice, but that was the first name of this town, was Rice. And White Willow had a post office, and Rice had a post office, and years go by, and in 1891, when the Chicago Great Western took over this railroad, there was some squabbling about the mail and this and that, and the railroad stepped in, and they renamed their station here White Willow. So there was another town in Minnesota called Rice, and with the squabbling that was going on with the mail, they stepped in and said, well, this is going to be the White Willow station now. We're not going to call it Rice anymore. And so this wound up being known as White Willow. And this is the area of the White Willow ghost town, you might say. You'll see the Goodhue County signs out in front saying White Willow and that sort of thing. So that's the background of where we're at and that sort of thing. There it is. So it's raised up, heading out that way. You can see it's probably good Probably a good 3 or 4 feet lower than the road is today. That's it right there. Coming out that way. See it out there? It's our rail bed out that way. It's on its way to Goodhue. So there's the rail bed. And I already talked to the homeowner, and they have bulls out in this pasture, so I can't go out into this pasture where the rail bed is, but I can walk along the fence line on this side. So I'm just going to walk down a ways and see if I can find anything. So this is the general area of that cheese factory, and this is the railroad tracks. This is the railroad bed right in front of us, and then there's a higher section in the back there. You can see it before it drops down by the creek, and that would have been where this first picture is. So after some discussion, you can see the railroad bed out here. And this is the railroad bed we're following. We're thinking this was one of the elevators that was here back in the day. Okay, here's a look at that ruins there from this other side, going up to the railroad there. Following the railroad back further. Yep. And I do see something out there. Right out there. Okay, we have to check that out. Okay, working our way down. There you go. So that creek runs through there, and you can see the pillars at the approach, and over on the other end, and couple in the middle there even. So that had to be one of the I'll bet this goes back to the Duluth, Red Wing, and Southern, and I'll bet it was one of their 24 trestles that they put in from Red Wing to Zumbrota. That's awesome, isn't it? Here's another look at that. Isn't that awesome history? Awesome history. There's one of those bulls laying right on the railroad bed. Yep. Yeah. I'm going to stay away from there. So you can just barely make that knoll out here. And now this area looks like it's probably just been washed out, you know. But the railroad bed is pretty much fading away now. Well, you can see the bed there, right there. See it going out this way? It's going out towards Goodhue. But I'm sure that's probably some other farmer's property, so I am going to stop here. Okay, so we are back here to place the depot. And this is state-owned right here. And I have a couple of maps. You've seen the maps. My plat maps place the depot over here by these trees. This is the railroad. So I'm going to place this depot according to my plat map. That's the one I would probably believe. So this is our depot right here, right about there. So from this angle, our depot will be right about there. Now, like I say, that other handwritten map that was written by some lady that was up in her years. In fact, her daughter wrote it for her as she was recollecting. So sometimes when you recollect, things aren't right, but I can't play God and say what's right in history and what isn't. So according to that map, the depot would be here. And this is a pretty low section in here, if you can see. It's real low, then it goes up a little bit. But that's not to say it couldn't have been here. So the rail bed going down that way. Go back and look at one of my plat maps. Look for the name Walsh. That's who owned this farm back then. And you remember the Colville Railroad War? This is kind of the same thing. The railroad came in and acquired the property, and he was pretty upset about it. So there was some fencing that was here to keep his cows and that off of the railroad. And he got all upset and he took the fencing down so his cows could roam on his property because the railroad was going through it. And he argued, he went to court. He wound up winning a $400 lawsuit, so he got $400 extra. Just like Colville got his $300 extra. Same kind of thing, but in the end, a couple of his cows wandered onto the railroad track. Train came by and killed both of his cows, so I don't know. Was the 400 worth it, or were the cows? I don't know. So that's one of the stories that was in one of those books I was reading. I thought I'd share that with you. There's a couple things here I'm going to show you yet, so hang around. Okay, you can see our railroad bed to the right. This little knoll in here. This is another photo of that cheese factory right there. Okay, so that's where the depot was, down in that area. The cheese factory's out there. That elevator was out that way. And if you look at that 1938 Harpo aerial photo, right about here, now give me a little leeway, right about here were those two stores, and I'm going to plug that picture in right now. Okay, so I've walked across the street. That's the area where we plugged in the stores. I'm gonna turn around. There's our depot down there. And kitty corner across the street from those stores was this bakery house. And this is where the baker lived. Now, I don't know if the baker lived there during the Prohibition days, but let me just say they sold more than just bakery goods during Prohibition. And I think they called this the Blind Pig or something. If I can find out what they called this building back in the day, I'll plug it in with this photo. So I'm thinking this is the general area that house was in, was right in this area here. So I'll just pick a spot and give me a leeway. This is the house. Whew. So, you know, there were all kinds of buildings here. There were two elevators, there was the baker, there was the cheese factory, there was the depot, there were two stores. Down at the far end was a school, and those roads down at that corner have all changed, so I'd be hard-pressed to find the spot. And I think I even saw a mention of a saloon, so yeah, it was a town that came up with the railroad, so it's a railroad town. And we're talking 1889 when that railroad came into effect. And then by the 20s, this town was already a depressed area. And by 1938, when you saw that aerial photo, I think 1939 is when the store was torn down by a farmer, and it was used to build some of his farm buildings. So that's kind of cool too. Lots of awesome history in this area. I did put up some newspaper clips so you could see those. There was a race to race the train here. So yeah, we covered a lot of history. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, because I had a blast doing this one. And I'll catch you on my next one. God bless you all.